this question is, I'm going to read it on my phone because I didn't post it, but I'm going to read it. She sent it last night, so I think she sent it during the Facebook Live yesterday. And she says, I work per diem for an agency, which is very much a lot of us who still work who are in the early stages. And one of the facilities I'm going to regularly is short-staffed CNAs. As an RN, I have very good rapport with the facility. When I'm off the clock with the agency that I'm per diem with, should I talk with them about using my CNAs, because she launched her agency last year, to fill their needs? So this is a tricky one. So this one's a little bit more trickier than the first one to me. Once again, I'm not a tax or legal professional. I'm definitely not a legal professional. And I encourage you guys to seek legal advice, such as LegalZoom or lawyers in your state, or even your small business administration or your local SCORE. They have a lot of great free resources for small businesses. So again, her question is, and I'm just going to read the last part of it, is when I'm off the clock with the agency that I'm per diem with, should I talk with them about using my CNAs to fill their needs? So she has CNAs because she's running an agency, but because her agency is up and running and new, she still works, which is the case for many of us. So she's thinking about using her CNAs who are available to work, help to fill their needs. So first, thank you, Stacy, for the question. I think the question is good. I think this is a question that many of us probably have or either entertained. And I appreciate you for sharing it so that we can have this discussion. And essentially, I'm just giving my take on it. I think, and I'm going to look at my comments, because I did respond last night when she posted it initially. And my response was, she said, should she do it? I said, I'm going to say no. I don't think she should do it. And I still feel that way. It could be considered a conflict of interest, and you might be under a non-compete clause with your agency that you're on contract with. So that was my response. And sometimes as we make that transition, those things we don't always think about, and we may not necessarily, hey, Stacy, we may not necessarily take into consideration. So Stacy's on here. So Stacy, if you need to clarify anything that I'm saying, feel free to post it in the comment section below. So, and there was a couple of other comments that I made and a couple of other members made about it. And I'm going to respond to the second comment that a member made about it that some people would consider, because like initially think, oh, well, it shouldn't be a big deal. So I'm going to read her response, which I think where she kind of felt like maybe it's not a big deal. She said, I wouldn't tell them it's my agency, just have another staff reach out as your agency and call them to market your agency. Sometimes you have to know how to get around these conflicts of interest, and I'm going to leave it at that. So, and then I responded and I kind of said that, thanks for the question. As an FYI, the conflict of interest is typically connected to a contract that you sign. And now I'm going to go into why I said that. So when we work as nurses, whether it's for agencies, whether it's for hospital systems, as staff, as travelers, as per diem, we typically sign somewhere, whether it's a separate sheet of paper, it's a part of the employee manual, or it can be a part of the policies and procedures for that particular company, a conflict of interest. And essentially that says that you cannot, as an employee of our company, then go and leave our organization. And they all look a little bit differently, but I'm going to just apply it to Stacey's situation. Then go and work and provide staff to the facility that you worked at is typically how it says. You can't go leave our agency, start an agency, and then begin providing staffing. The one thing about the conflict of interest or the non-compete is that they typically give you a time frame. So they may say for 18 months or 12 months, or some of the conflicts or non-competes may say you can't leave our agency and work for agency A and then go work for another agency and still work for facility A. So let me say that again. So some of the non-competes might say, hey, you can't leave our agency working for agency A and then work for another agency working for facility A. Oh, you guys help me here. I'm getting all turned around. But I hope you know what I'm trying to say. And a lot of the reason that companies have it in place is because they don't want people bouncing around to different agencies for more pay or more benefits that are providing services to the same facility or hospital system. So another example of that, I have another example in my own situation, was that I used to work for a hospital system when I lived in Atlanta, Georgia. And I decided to leave and I decided to travel. And one of the travel agencies that I worked for provided contract staff to this particular facility. And I was not able to be a contractor with that agency working at that facility because they had a non-compete. So even though I had the experience, even though for some facilities it's great that you have the experience and I've worked in that system, they would not allow me as an employee of that agency to return to that facility as a contractor. So I never was able to get contracts through that particular facility. And that might help people kind of understand some of what I was trying to say a little bit earlier. But on to Stacey's more specific question, should she do it? So I said no. And I also said no, not just because of the conflict or the non-compete, because those are real cut and dry. It's legal documents that you guys sign, that we all sign, and it's things that have timelines on it. So once you sign onto something, you're kind of bound by it legally. So when you decide to do something different, then you're kind of putting yourself in a real sticky situation. But the other piece of it is the understanding, which is more of a response to the young lady that told her kind of work around some of these conflicts of interest, is that we're a small industry. A lot of times people don't realize how small the industry is, whether it's staffing or facilities, and how quickly things can get around as to what you're doing. So if you said, hey, well, I'm going to try it and I'm going to see what happens, that's your choice, but realistically, is it worth the risk? And I think that that was part of my response to what she said, was that the reward wasn't worth the risk, because just like these companies that have done 1099s, or there's a lot of companies such as AMN Healthcare and a few others who have gone out there and done something similar with regards to employees, or blocked. And I'll drop some of the articles I'm referring to later, a little bit later. Other agencies been working with clients, word gets around fast. And it's not always like an intentional, oh, well, she didn't like me or I didn't like her, so I'm going to tell that she's doing this. It's not always that complicated or thought out. It could be something as simple as, oh, well, I worked for her agency too. Oh, well, she's the owner of that agency. Or it could be a situation of somebody saying, oh, they wanted to give a reference, and then you be the person who gives a reference, but people are under the understanding that the agency is owned by someone else. So to me, as a small business owner, I know that it's hard. It can be very challenging to get started and get contracts and get clients. I think that as a employer, it's important to kind of maintain a standard, a consistent standard for like what you want your business to be and represent, so that as you grow, choices and decisions that you maybe made early on don't kind of come back to you. Because realistically, both of these questions are great questions, but they aren't always things that you consider in the early stages when you want to just go out there and get a contract and work for yourself and do all these great things. But the things that you do kind of getting started will come back to you, because just like the example I gave with the company that's being sued now for the for improperly classifying employees, that was a job I did 3 years ago. And the lawsuit just went through probably a couple of years ago. So it's kind of better to be cautious about those things and definitely reach out to the people. This group is a great resource. Like I said before, though, we're not tax professionals or legal professionals. So I would always encourage you guys to get the final say from those people. But you just don't want to put yourself in situations where there could be potentially tax implications or legal implications for something so small. You know, in the bigger scheme of things, as you grow your agencies, it's important to know that, yes, you're not going to be able to get every opportunity, but you want to make sure that the opportunities that you get will sustain you over the long haul, not only you, but also your business relationships and your business reputation. So you guys let me know what you think.